amount of players that were making it into bracket with a Jiro. He was trying that Jiro probably longer than any other character or player out there. Now he's coming in with definitely the more meta pick of the Mordex.
And these gauntlets, even beyond the Scythe, were putting in a lot of work in that 3-0. Like, it was not close. But when it comes to Snowy's also made a tremendous amount of the money and the work that they've got, like with Winters and today, with those gauntlets too. So how are you feeling about the Gauntlet Ditto as they start things off?
Man, both players have such a nasty set of gauntlets. Snowy's really leveled up, especially against, like, in the later stages of the previous sets we watched from Snowy today. They were amazing. He was chaining together so many hits that are not true combos. He was making the damage buildup so frightening.
The amount of follow-ups after Sidelight into Fear, and then now it's my turn, just kept going. Snowy, I think that's the most impressive thing about Snowy. He doesn't give up his turn in a game that's pretty easy to accidentally overextend on. It's been really impressive because when he does feel like he's about to lose it, he chucks his weapon at your face, interrupts it, and immediately takes it back.
And because you can overextend too much, that puts the fear in the people to not overextend and to pull back out of their strings earlier than you might want to because of the pressure you can exert. So it's Snowy finding that, like, really nice balance between overexertion and under pressure.
Yeah, and we're like, the way that Snowy has pretty much prevented any attempt at Scythe. We're seeing pretty much solo gauntlets from Phazon so far. That puts a lot into perspective because you want to be able to chase with that Scythe. He had a lot of really good down air reads from the previous match as well. I believe it was in game number 2. So let's see if Phazon can find something, try and find a big combo starter to get himself back into it.
There is a weapon spawn on the field. Snowy's able to grab it immediately. The axe is going to come out, but Phazon has the Scythe in hand. We haven't seen too much from Scythe on Phazon as of late, but of course we do have the gauntlets that he's played virtually forever. We saw the Shank back in the day. We saw a lot of Val back in the day. So the gauntlets are definitely the more comfortable weapon for Phazon, but he has been practicing this Mordex here recently. He has like 200 plus ranked games this season. His most recent stream, he was playing a lot of Mordex in his ranked games, so he's definitely very familiar with this character, even though we know him as more of sort of a gauntlets player.
I want to see a whole lot more of this Scythe because I think it's been like a solid 30 seconds or so since, okay, there, finally Snowy got a hit. That took a long time before Snowy actually connected on something else, mostly just from consistent callouts from Phazon repeatedly with the Scythe. That's kind of working a lot better.
It's not Sandstorm Scythe where he grabs 3-4 right away. It's like this extended Scythe that all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, I'm in red. I feel like I've only been hit 3 or 4 times, but actually I've been hit 10 times over an extended period of time. Snowy does turn it around in the edge guard situation, finds a nice ground pound. He has the weapon advantage as well, sticking with the gauntlets here against Phazon. He's going to be hunting for a weapon because the unarmed KO potential, not very high right now for Phazon.
Yeah, and I definitely want to see, I think for Phazon too, if you can put some fear into Snowy with these gauntlets, which you did do earlier, then you're going to get yourself back into the game for free. But with the way that that Scythe worked, I think that's the best way to force Snowy to go towards that axe. But Snowy trying to find the ground pound, almost connects on it. Phazon chasing him down there too. The reversal coming in from Snowy, trying to catch him on the ledge, does get the wall touch and somehow gets back and still pushing here, Sparky.
I've seen the sweat beads come out from Phazon 3 times in the last 10 seconds, and that is making me actually perspire in the real world.
And catches the ground pound right there, so a little bit less to worry about with that stock lead, but deep in the red here, Snowy is so clean at converting on these KOs with that gauntlet. You have to keep him backed off as much as possible as he connects, but he doesn't get the KO there.
Beautiful delay between the sidelight and the recovery in case a dodge came out from Phazon. Snowy was going to be able to react to it. Stuck over on the edge, but he immediately gets away from that. There were a few times where we saw Snowy get a little bit tripped up, a little bit shook up on the left and right sides and end up falling in previous sets, but he's kind of getting away from that now. He knows he's so far in the lead, it's not going to take too much to find the KO here. That neutral light would have been a nice edge guard situation set up. He's hoping for maybe the recovery, but he might get demolished here. The weapon toss goes high, but it doesn't matter. Phazon clutches up.
I think a big part of that fear that happened was the side stick that came out just before that from Phazon. It's like, oh, he's probably going for GC side stick pretty soon. Like, I have to make sure I float away. And the moment that Phazon saw Snowy started to slowly shift towards the left side, I kept following with him. He had the call, recognized it, and I gotta say, from where the beginning of that match was to where it ended, I did not see Phazon taking game number 1.
I mean, you look at the top right of your screen, Snowy was so deep in the red, and Phazon was almost as red on the next stock. So there was a full stock lead, and this right here is the thing that we talk about when we talk about Snowy possibly being like a coin flip player, it's closing out those games. The end of Snowy games seem to extend forever, and that lets the other player catch up to where you are and overall clutch it. Once we get to those end of the games and everybody's red, it's just like weapon toss city for Snowy. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to close it out, and that's frustrating to watch as a Snowy fan.
Referencing once again that Game 5 set against Luna and Winters, everybody was on the edge of their seats, and that is pretty much what Snowy just forces you all to go through at all times. With Phazon, incredible job being able to take the game one. One thing Snowy has done a couple times already today is after that first game loss, which I think we saw against Experience as well, the adjustments are night and day. Granted, was about to see the end of the day right there as you see the attempt for the side take off stage.
Weapon toss going up. We're going to see Phazon completely swap over to the gauntlets. Nice two-piece. Is he going to get the recovery? No, he actually went back down to the main stage, hoping he can maybe punish Snowy. He's going to have some time to get over there as well. Snowy's not going to have a free recovery over to the right side. He does get back to the main platform. Had to throw his weapon and disarm himself. That means next weapon spawn goes to Phazon. It's on the left side. They've now swapped places. Snowy grabs a weapon, eats the signature. Any more to the left, that would have been a stock.
Yeah, it's just so close, so far away. But now, what does Phazon do? Well, actually, Phazon is throwing out a healthy dose of signatures now, just trying to put fear into Snowy. And I don't mind it because it makes a lot of sense. You're trying to keep Snowy backed off, force those weapon tosses so you can pressure him. This Scythe versus the Gauntlet has really made a big difference so far in this set between the two.
Oh, he went back into it, Ajax! He went back into it!
You know what? I'm a Snowy fan. I love the confidence in the play and way he goes deep. No fear. So deep in the red here, too. That's our borrowed time as well, Sparky.
Oh, the Neutralite, man. Phazon is so unhappy right now. After fading back into that ground pound, then the Neutralite picking up on the wrong side of the stage does still get the KO. Didn't take too much damage, has his choice of weapons. It's going to be the Scythe. He didn't even try to do the extra juggle. That's some Sandstorm action right there that we weren't necessarily seeing from Phazon before. So that Scythe really coming alive. We're seeing it all the way, bringing over from the right side to the left side, giving Snowy a beautiful tour of the Mammoth Fortress here.
Yeah, now he's starting to actually connect on these D-lights, which has been, that is incredible. Oh, I think the platform might have actually saved Snowy from getting hit there. So the plot armor coming through for the winner's champ.
Dude, Phazon!
You were talking about Sandstorm-esque. This is looking incredible so far for Phazon, using the weapon toss to kind of help get some survivability there. But Snowy's been kind of struggling with this Scythe since we've seen more of it.
We are seeing some beautiful Scythe gameplay here from Phazon, especially the signature game. We mentioned that a little bit earlier, but the way he's throwing them out when there's a lot of space between him and Snowy is like some of the signatures are hitting, and then the other ones are not getting punished, which is very important when you're throwing out a lot of signatures. If you keep catching hands every time you throw one out, it's dangerous. Snowy's gonna fall. Phazon completely mind-giving him on the edge.
Yeah, good job from Phazon, especially after that previous game too, where Snowy went right back down after him. Snowy's very rarely going back to stage without trying to make the attempt at the early Gimp. What do you want to see out of Snowy that we've seen that has worked so well in the past to try and get back in this game? Because so far, it's kind of been struggling here against the change-ups from Phazon.
I want to see the Axe gameplay coming out. He has it in his hand right now. I want him to maybe work on his spacing a little bit more, find his way in, find his way out. That's a nice, beautiful two-piece right there. Work on those side lights, especially work on those neutral lights, because those add up so quickly. Side light, of course, leads into side air. It can be a little bit tricky to space it perfectly to get the true option, but Axe Inlight is a perfectly acceptable KO move now. It's also a perfectly acceptable damage building move.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to work on writing the damage. Okay, coming in. No need for a straight stare. That's still not enough just yet. Does not get the wall touch. That is going to at least get him the KO. Only a little bit in the yellow. That actually wasn't too bad. He was able to slow it down a bit.
And he's sticking with the Axe. We're seeing him make that conscious decision. He disarms himself. The next weapon is going to be gauntlets, so he'll have to swap that out with the weapon spawn after that. But that's if he can even get one. Phazon has been doing incredibly well with both weapons, and even when he's unarmed, he's not taking too much in the process while he waits for the next spawn to come up.
I want to see the stat counter on how long the average length of Snowy having a weapon attached to him is. Like, how long does it take before the weapon gets tossed? Because he's constantly cycling it, and its ability to weapon starve is incredible, but now unarmed after going for the weapon toss up, does get back to the gauntlets though. We're now back to the gauntlet matchup.
I believe I actually might be able to give you that number.
I want to know that. I definitely want to know that. As we see an attempt coming in from Phazon here, this is very crucial because the way that Phazon is playing, I don't want to be trying to reverse 3-0.
Oh, Snowy. It's getting to that point that it's just going to be weapon toss after weapon toss. He's going to be hunting for those Sayers. He's going to be hoping to just find one out of thin air. You see him all the way on the right side of the stage. Could be dangerous if he gets hit over there, especially like a side air that doesn't bounce on the main stage, like we just saw. That could be detrimental. Big side air. Snowy in the power position, caught Phazon while he was in the air. Already used too many of his in-air movement options. And actually, 548 is a very acceptable amount of damage to win a game with.
Yeah, and getting that game 2 mattering so much. Phazon had such a dominant control, and there was that shift back into the ground pound you were talking about before. That might have actually changed the majority of the game, because if Phazon avoids that ground pound at that first stock, gets back to stage in the way that he was kind of just controlling the whole tempo with the scythe, mattered so much. But Snowy, even with the having less damage on, still walking away with it just because of the efficiency of where he found the KOs.
So let's talk about those weapon throws. 33 came out from Snowy last game. Compare that to the almost half of Phazon's 17. Now, if we want to talk about how long they spent with weapons in their hands, 21% was spent with Snowy on gauntlets, 39% was Snowy on axe. That adds up to about 66%. That means 34% of the game he was unarmed. A lot of those times, in fact, probably almost every single time he was unarmed, it was his own doing by throwing that weapon away. So he spent a significant chunk, over a third of the game, Ajax, without a weapon.
That's absurd confidence. Like, being able to not only pinpoint where you're getting weapons also every time, but also not really having fear of making that mistake. We saw a couple times where he misplaced it, still was immediately able to box unarmed, get back to the weapon, put that pressure on, and even after facing a couple of like health deficits, this is looking very similar to what we've seen out of Snowy almost every time. Loses game 1, gets game number 2, adaptations have been made. Now it's going to be pretty bad for whoever the opponent is.
We'll see if the map choice is anything different for these players. You can see the map banning coming out in the background. One thing we stressed this a little bit in the pre-show as well, but since Snowy is a weapon throw player, you're never, like, you can take the Snowy out of the weapon throws, but you can't take the weapon throws out of the Snowy, right? That's a saying that people say all the time. Many people are saying this all over the world.
Yeah, quote it. Sparky wouldn't lie to you.
But I would love for Snowy to incorporate what Godly was doing so well, and we haven't really seen this put into practice en masse for a lot of different players, but that sort of like bounce pass to yourself of throwing the weapon toss down, hoping to bait something out from your opponent who is expecting a weapon to come flying at them. You pick up the weapon immediately and punish after they've jumped or thrown their dodge or something like that. For a player who weapon tosses so much, I would love to see him grab that toolkit from a player like Godly and put that into his own toolkit.
And Godly does that specifically with Axe often and gets a lot of free Sayers out of it.
It's like, so sick.
People like, oh, opening? Nope. And you feel silly after you get hit by it too, but it slowly gets to you over time. And then you look at that health, much like what we were talking about with the Scythe, and you wonder, how did I get here? As Phazon's currently wondering how he got so deep into the red so quickly.
It is certainly like the next evolution of weapon toss technology in Brawlhalla. I would love to see Snowy do that. That was a nice little bounce pass to himself there. He has a lead here. It's actually a fantastic lead. Gets the D-Light recovery, not quite going to KO off the top. Hoping he can reach up with that fist. He doesn't have to worry about stretching his arm out. Rayman doesn't have arms.
It's true, but he still has that reach available to him at all times, especially here on Miami Dome, where you get those chases with Scythe, but you also have to worry about that range coverage from Snowy. We actually see this stage come out quite a bit in recent history for Snowy, so Phazon's got a bit of work to do post the adaptations, but does find a big opener right there, gets the call with the SIG, and closes out the stock.
Very beautiful use of that stock there. He wasn't necessarily hunting for like the quote-unquote big play Mordex dunk that knocks out in orange. He just tossed that one out quick, expecting Snowy to be high, got the right reaction in time to hit Snowy, got the stock very efficiently.
Yeah, now the efficiency is key. Simplicity might actually be key here if Phazon wants to get back into this and take, well, actually not necessarily get back into this, but take away the confidence that Snowy now has. Because when you push very hard against somebody who's constantly willing to engage like Snowy does, it's sometimes crucial that you step back a bit, change tempo, make him get confused on how you approach often, and then you get that incredible pressure that you had back in that game 1 and 2 with the Scythe, and maybe finally get that that startup that you've been looking for with these gauntlets.
And that efficiency is so important because if we look at last game, we talked about the 548 from Snowy being a very efficient amount of damage to do that whole game. 663 damage was what Phazon did. We can split that at half. I did it on my calculator. I can also do that one on my brain. That is 221 per stock. That is not good efficiency.
You forgot one math problem, and you have been reminding me repeatedly that you can't do math.
I gotta make sure that you know.
I believe in you. I believe in you. Much like I believe that this stock is probably going to disappear very, very soon. One thing that Phazon hasn't really had with the gauntlet so far, Sparky, that I've seen, we haven't seen that big gauntlet string. Like, I don't know if I've seen one really long extended, like, how many nairs have connected at all from the gauntlets in recent games?
The gauntlets have certainly not been bussin' for Phazon so far. This might be the beginning of something. He's mostly just been playing sort of a little bit defensive with the gauntlets. Like, you saw him get the 2-piece, didn't go for an edge guard. He just tried to maintain stage control, and he wanted to punish the landing from Snowy. Snowy dipping down very low on the platform there. Hits the unarmed recovery. Not going to be the KO yet. I would like to see Phazon get over to that Scythe because it was working for him earlier. That in-light. Snowy was just a little bit too far behind him. That would have at least put Phazon in a power position. Might have even gotten the KO.
Yeah, great job actually dodging all that from Snowy. Gets back in and almost takes the KO off the top with recovery, but takes the weapon toss. You have to pick the right route, and Phazon just was forced to go there. There was actually no other way to put it. After that weapon toss, like, hey, comfortably place yourself directly in front of my foot so I can go ahead and punch you out of here for the 3 points.
You saw Phazon using the gauntlet's side air to use his weapon movement instead of actually like in-air movement that is very limited, like a jump or a dodge. His dodge was already down from that weapon toss that came out. So using that side air, Snowy just had to wait long enough to where his move would out-threaten and gain priority over Phazon's already queued up side air to get back over to the wall.
Yep, I wonder if a big part of what Phazon was doing with staying with the gauntlet so long was the speed of the signature KOs, because we saw before that one of them worked very well on calling on a jump from Snowy. But you got to be careful down there, because Snowy was already shown his hand saying, you meet me down this deep at the stage, especially with a stock up, I'm going to make an attempt at it.
I don't know if that ground pound from Phazon, that highly telegraphed one from a million years away, I don't know if that was like 1 brain or 10 brain. It was one of those two. I believe it is one of those two. It was either the worst move in the history of the world, or it was like incredible Giga Chad. He knew everything that was going to happen, got the bait on Snowy, and got the KO.
Sometimes the best option is actually the most obvious one, but you have to be very rare with it. Playing unorthodox against high caliber players will help you trick them up every once in a while. But this is actually a really even game. You know, like a lot of the struggle that Phazon had getting damaged before was able to take that stock, and this is only game number 3 too, as we see Snowy almost take game number 3 right there.
Phazon has to add up more damage. He's still spent so much time on the gauntlets this game. That side air went Snowy in the power position, almost falling over the second one. The recovery was close too. Phazon gets back to the main platform. Side light nair, not going to be the KO option, but that means like a neutral light from a further away position from the blast zone is likely going to KO now.
And Snowy hasn't gone for a recovery attempt on that either, so at some point he's going to pull the trigger on it, and Phazon might get caught slipping. Phazon currently just trying not to slip up at the ledge. Does get the reversal, go get to the weapon. No,
dude, get the weapon, Phazon, please,
get the weapon.
I hate when players do this. It is so tough to watch sometimes. He could have gone over, gotten the weapon. Now he's at the weapon disadvantage, so he has to hug the wall. It's too dangerous. Snowy has the weapon advantage, goes over to the soft platform, eats a nair, and again, we're seeing Snowy not close out yet another game. We're over 6 minutes into this game, Ajax.
Snowy can always get the KO, but can sometimes struggle to get that, get the damage, but sometimes can struggle to get the KO. That's why we're even at last stock apiece here in the first place, because he had a very large lead before. One stray Sair, pretty much anything, like you talk about neutral light, we'll take it. Weapon toss pushing him deep off stage, forcing him to have to recover.
Oh, that's the dodge from Phazon.
Dodge.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Snowy might have been a little bit worried about that. He was at the weapon disadvantage over on the wall. You know what Scythe can do on the edge when a skilled player has it in their hands. Snowy just wants to dip down beneath his... Oh no, Snowy! If you lose this game, that is going to be heartbreaking! 6 minutes and 40 seconds! I cannot wait to see the graph, Ajax!
Show me the graph! I want to see it right now. Look at this photograph. This is the embodiment of what it means to be a Snowy fan,
Yeah.
what it means to watch Snowy play.
Yeah.
And I got it. I already can see it. I'm willing to put money on it almost. That we're going to go to Game 5. It's going to be last hit, and it's going to be around 1 minute again. Because I think Snowy is going to adapt in this next game, especially after dropping one like that, a heartbreaker. That's going to make Snowy get really aggressive.
That's an orange KO, dude. Phazon spent almost half of the game on that final stock, dude. Oh my goodness.
If you look at the other stocks, too, look at how often Phazon spent at the high levels of health and was still able to bring it back.
I'm so unhappy.
You are going through it right now.
That's just Snowy, dude.
Look, I'm going through it too because my predictions are completely shot in the water right now. I was hashtag play Thatch all day today, and that's looking a little grim for me at the moment. Java went down the lower side, so that guarantees at least one's wrong. And now Snowy's trying to make a trip there too to guarantee that I'm looking a whole lot of stupid today.
Man.
But there's still potentially 2 games left. Phazon, however, has just been that guy today. He's so solid at the way that we've seen the punish game in. I think the biggest thing has to be the scythe. Like at the start, the gauntlet was not doing anything. It was not beating Snowy in the 1v1 with gauntlet. The moment the scythe showed up, was able to get that range, was able to get that damage, and the axe hasn't been putting in nearly as much work as we would expect potentially out of Snowy here either.
Think about how long Phazon waited for that one final moment where he was able to take the game. That was an orange KO. He didn't build up damage over this long period of time. You saw on the graph at the end of the game, Snowy's damage was like midway up the graph. Phazon's damage was all the way at the top of the graph. It was pushing the maximum of the graph upward. And all Phazon had to do was wait for that one moment where Snowy made that critical mistake, gets the KO in orange. We were talking about the efficiency being important. That right there is peak efficiency for Phazon.
It really is. And also, that's just a moment of never give up. If you really feel like that you're out of the match, go ahead and take a look at that last one. How are you feeling now with the switch up here with triple platforms available, a few more landing options, and a few more combo extensions you could possibly get now too?
I don't know, dude. I hate this map so much. Anytime I see this map, I'm transported to having to play this map, and I don't know how to play this map, man. It's good for Axe players.
Is this specifically because it's so much harder for you to regularly land Bodvar Desig on this stage?
I don't play Bodvar. I'm not a nasty Bodvar sword player or hammer player, because that's filthy and disgusting, and I'm not. I'm cultured. I'm not a barbarian. But Snowy is going to take the first stock here, swinging his axe like a madman, hoping that he can continue that throughout all of these stocks and not spend so much of the game on that final stock, throwing his weapon, hoping he can find a stray Sair or something against Phazon to get the final KO.
I think swinging like a madman and using that range that you have available to you on these platforms is the way to go. You need to just take advantage of how often Phazon is going to have to hover around those platforms, get the fear of having to make a mistake. Taking the nairs, taking the recoveries, much easier to get free damage on. As we see an attempt at a ground pound, great reversal, does get back on, does not die to the recovery off the top because he was so low, but Phazon very much so looking better at the start here with these gauntlets. It did take a bit to get that KO, but at least he finally got it.
He has his choice of weapon. I thought he was going to stick with the gauntlets for a second. He held on to them for just a moment, but then threw them back up, picked up the scythe, hoping he can do some scythe work. Beautiful spot dodge there. Only does find one hit on it. Eats a Sair from Snowy. Neutral light again. Try to go for the low side light option rather than anything aerial.
Yeah, just trying to keep it simple. Just trying to play grounded because you realize you don't want to go up there and try and box with Snowy right now, but does get the D-light. Trying to look for a call on the jump. Just misses out. Good defense from Snowy.
Phazon is still significantly behind in this game. He's going to have to find some explosive scythe play because the extended long time hit, wait 10 seconds, find another hit, that ain't happening so far. The damage trade is going definitely in Snowy's favor. It seems like anytime he's spent unarmed after a weapon toss that doesn't make a connection isn't too bad. There is no major momentum going the way of Phazon. He's really fallen behind here. He does get away from that down signature. I don't know if that was like a misinput weapon toss or whether that was an attempted bounce pass to himself.
Maybe. One thing that was definitely true is that he finished his food.
That is true.
That was deep in the red for Phazon, and in previous games,
dude,
that didn't matter.
He's just gonna rip a neutral signature when his opponent is in yellow. Man, being a Snowy fan is definitely an interesting emotional roller coaster.
We'll call it trying to send a message.
That's true. He is the Joker, burning the pile of cash here. It's not about the cash, brother. It's about sending that message. And Snowy, he's the Joker. After that last game, I would have turned into the Joker.
I mean, it's definitely about anarchy for sure. As we see an attempt to try and go ahead and close out this game right
Snowy?
here. And he will.
Oh, Snowy!
A 2-stock game coming in at game number 4. We're going to get a game number 5 here in winter semis between Snowy and Phazon. Able to get to this point. I did not expect we were going to reach this at first.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But like after the other games, I was assuming we would get to game number 5. Last stock. Really deep into it, but that game 4 kind of sent a different message.
Oh, and that right there. Phazon did one of those ground pounds before that game, but he pulled out of it in time and ended up, I believe, getting a KO off of it. That time he didn't pull out of the ground pound, even though, again, it was one of those highly telegraphed Phazon ground pounds. That gave Snowy so much time to react to it. 507 damage. Spread that across 3 stocks, Ajax. That's 169 damage, baby. That is 19 damage past the beginning stages of red. That is incredible for Snowy. After the previous game where it was like, I think it was 694 damage and he lost?
And we saw 87 damage on the Scythe from Phazon. Barely pulled it out, but when it did come out, it didn't matter, which means Snowy has started figuring things out. That platforms do take away from Scythe grounded attempts at strings, though. Now we're switched up here to Mammoth. Phazon with the control can't possibly take it, but honestly, I really have no idea who to predict.
I honestly don't either. I think you could watch half of this game and still not have any actual better grip on who is going to win this one.
Yeah, because even when you look at the way that Snowy has almost always had the damage lead, that sometimes hasn't mattered. It was way better in game number 4. Snowy has to hold on to that same confidence they had in game number 4, regardless of the stage switch, and keep that pressure going to be able to just walk away with this. And I think a big part of that has been how much more Axe we've been seeing as we see the Axe disappear immediately and the recovery KO off the top. Phazon has finally found something with the gauntlets.
The gauntlets started working. Now he's swapping over to the Scythe for some damage build. He's already found some 2-piece, 3-pieces early on in this game. On the first stock, he completely gets away from that big old fist coming out from Snowy. That is going to be a stock right there. We haven't seen too much of that actually from kind of most Gauntlet players. It seems like that is starting to move out of fashion in Gauntlet, where you do the sidelight in one direction, the sidelight in the other direction. Did that work? Yes or no? Sidelight in one direction, sidelight the same direction, then you go for the KO option. Did that work? Yes or no? And you just kind of move through that Gauntlet flow chart of, did this work? I'm going to try another one. Did this work? I'm going to try a different one.
It's been a majority of just straight up recovery calls.
Absolutely.
Like just, I know you're going to be here, rather than trying to make the attempt at forcing it. I think it's just because the defense of them has been so good, and even the other Gauntlet player stuff today, other than when we saw Phazon run through that 3-0 earlier, we haven't seen anybody get that really big string so far here in the North American side of things, at least, because we saw a lot of that yesterday with Godly.
Ooh, Snowy has some momentum in his favor here. The big side air from the wrong side of the stage might give Phazon enough room to get back. The down air, he tries to go as far as he can, can't quite make it. And like, I look at this and I'm like, yeah, okay, he's in the yellow, up a full stock against Phazon, but who is it? Oh, it's Snowy. Are we going to see what happened on the Miami Dome game, or is this going to be the final game that Snowy plays against one of his other opponents that we saw today? Is it going to be Snowy versus Experience, where the final game is absolute destruction? Or are we going to see Phazon absolutely steal the game?
Well, Snowy's doing a really good job at it so far, dodging every attempt at any sidelights, any D-lights, any openers from Phazon. He's trying to get anything started. The Scythe, pretty much, it has to be the way to get this going. You need those quick strings. Get that big play like we saw in game number 3 to close out that last stock when you were so deep in the red. Phazon is the embodiment of never give up. Almost got punched directly in the face, though.
So mad if Phazon ran into that, dude. I was going to be frustrated. That took the recovery out. I believe that is it. Yes, it is. He got caught in the recovery with Snowy's down air before that sort of somewhat 360-degree hitbox comes out for the Scythe recovery, and Snowy saw that moment, knew he was in complete control, knew he had more options to use against Phazon than Phazon would have to use against him or to get back to the wall. Incredible extension in that off stage.
Snowy fans get to finally rejoice.
It does. It feels good,
it was
man.
2 stocks twice in a row. The fact that Snowy was able to rebound very well, figured it out, and didn't let those big damage advantages that he had disappear, because for some weird reason, Snowy feels like, okay, I got you deep red. Now I can't fight you. Now I have to stay over here because that means you might hit me, and I don't want that. And I don't get it, but it worked. Something clicked for Snowy as game number 4 came around. That's a big reason why I think we saw that here in game number 5. The dominance factor was not slow. It was not campy. 424 on the gauntlets from